Good morning. So wouldn't that be nice? A place where all are welcome, a place where love is found and revealed through a feast, not just any feast, but a feast that frees us. I'd like to begin by sharing some details about an object that reminds me that I am welcome, that love has been and continues to be revealed to me, and that I share in a feast that has helped to free me. 31 years ago, almost to the date, I was given this top hat, and at a feast, no less. It was a cast party. It was presented to me following the conclusion of the first performance that I had ever been in, the first full-length play. And despite its ragged, decaying state, it remains on display in my office as one of my favorite possessions. It's the real deal. I want to read the insert to you here. Made by Welton, Hatter to the Queen, Regent Street, London, for J.B. Winkle, Algona, Iowa, which is my hometown. So it's pretty cool. That hat plays a small role today, however, and rather I'd like to frame my thoughts around some of the themes and lyrics from that first production. A few of you might recognize the words on screen now, or just a couple of lyrics, as lyrics from the song Consider Yourself. This song comes from the musical Oliver, an adaptation of the book Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Oliver tells the story of an orphan suffering through a miserable life of poverty and loneliness. While living in a workhouse, Oliver and the other orphans dream of a life of plenty, a life where their daily serving of gruel is replaced by food, glorious food. As the lyrics go, hot sausage and mustard, cold jelly and custard. So hunger is a major motif in this story, and young Oliver's adventure begins when he brazenly approaches the director of the orphanage, a rotund and well-fed character by the name of Mr. Bumble, and says, "Please, sir, I want some more gruel." This shocking and unwelcome request begins a chain of events that leads Oliver on a journey that will change his life, his fate, his identity, and his relationships. As an aside, for those of you that were in chapel on Wednesday, I was sort of amazed by the synchronicity of the testimony from Pedro as he described his work with orphans. He seems like a man who is the exact antithesis of Mr. Bumble, and my hope is that those children that he works with are having a better experience than Oliver Twist. Ultimately, Oliver escapes, though, and he goes to London. There he meets a young pickpocket named Jack Dawkins, more famously known as the Artful Dodger. Dodger and Oliver become quick friends thanks to the welcoming spirit captured in the lyrics from the song Consider Yourself. These words of brotherhood, family, and sharing are just what Oliver needs to hear, and the relationship is sealed. So at this point, you probably see where I'm heading. It's the start of our year together as a TLU community. New students, faculty, and staff, and even a new president are joining with returning members of our community. To borrow a phrase from Pedro the other day, all of us are God's orphans. Regardless of how long we've been here or how comfortable we are, we're all considering how we fit in at this home as part of this family. And hopefully, as our opening hymn suggests, we will work to see that all are welcome in this place. But back to that top hat here. After making friends with the Artful Dodger, Oliver goes to live with a ragtag group of pickpockets working for a paternal character named Fagin. He's an occasionally sinister figure, trapped in a life of crime and poverty just to survive. But he's capable of generosity and kindness on occasion. In the process, Oliver finds a family of sorts, moving from an orphan to being one of us. I thought that maybe some nostalgia and self-deprecation might help reinforce these themes right now. So let's get back to those early days when I first did this very show. That's me, in the same hat that I showed you as the Artful Dodger. Standing next to me is a talented young guy in the main image there named Rich Mergen, who was a fantastic Oliver. And we too hit it off and had a good friendship at the time. The show was produced by the Countryside Community Playhouse in my hometown, an organization that is still in operation, still cranking out summer musicals. The CCP, as we called it, was truly representative of a community theater run totally by volunteers. The participants were united by their common goal of producing theater for a small rural community in northern Iowa. But in addition to all of these noble goals, producing theater, exploring a challenging text, learning about musical theater for the first time, I was having a blast. For example, being featured in the local paper was a big deal for an 11-year-old kid. It didn't hurt that the editor and publisher of the paper was also playing Fagin. We got some good press out of that deal. Of course, I was pretty bummed about one thing, one detail of this picture, the fact that you can probably tell my eyes were closed. I did not have a good publicist at the time, but I'm going to explain some things. You see, as I entered 6th grade, I was 11 years old, I had started to realize that meeting young women was a nice side benefit of this new community I was joining. I had developed a particular fondness for the lady looking into the camera, a gal named Lynette. Indeed, as the caption says to this photo, I would have done anything for her. So I just couldn't bear to gaze upon her beauty. That's the reality of the story. I couldn't look. The problem here is that I was entering 6th grade, and unfortunately, she was a sophomore in high school. Not so good on the odds there. So this experience was obviously a key part of my development, but I'd really like to dig a little bit deeper than that today, even deeper beyond welcoming you all to a new year and community together. For many years, I've enjoyed teaching exploring the arts and sciences, or what we now call FREX 134. In fact, I just had a session with a group at 9, and we talked through the allegory of the cave for what I think is the 13th time now in my life, and it's still invigorating to me to explore that text with first-year students. One of the readings we used from the past, however, was entitled Community, Commitment, and Individuality by Robert Bellah, a sociologist, and some of his research colleagues. Bellah had spent and has spent his career examining the relationship between individuals and communities, and his thoughts about community have been influenced by the individuals that he has interviewed and studied. People like Mara James, an environmental activist who says this: many people feel empty, don't know why they feel empty. The reason is that we are all social animals and we must live and interact and work together in community to become fulfilled. So back to that hunger thing. Or Cecilia Doherty, a local activist from California, who says that she wanted to bring people away from concern only about their own lives to a sense of a much, much broader, greater responsibility. And Bellah has a lot of subjects that he studied, and he continues to study as a sociologist. And he shares the stories of these individuals and citizens. As he does so, he notes that they have discovered, and in some cases rediscovered, their individuality by working in community. Now just think about that. We all know that America promotes individualism and making it on your own merits. And Bellah's evidence and his research suggests that many of the people he has interviewed suggest they have found their individuality. They found their calling, their vocation, their purpose in life by connecting with community. And that's pretty profound. That's been the case in my life, certainly. I didn't always know where I was heading. Many folks know that I was an economics major at TLU, and now I'm on faculty teaching in the Dramatic Media department. So it's not always a clear path towards vocation and calling, but I have certainly found that my individual identity has been influenced by my work in community here. When I think about not only myself within this community, but all of those who I have had the pleasure to meet, work with, collaborate with, people who became like family to me, it blows my mind. This has truly been a glorious and fulfilling feast. I hope it has been and will be the same for you, even if you're brand new to this campus. I also hope, as Bellah suggests, that you will consider yourself in this home and family, and that you will hopefully discover identity through this community. Closing thought about family. I can't possibly close today without this little side note. I auditioned for Oliver largely at the urging of my mother, dear sweet woman, whose name is Susan Legore, who had a sense early on that I might enjoy the experience and do well. So here's Mom and Dad, and yeah, there's a little family resemblance between me and Mom. Unlike many true orphans, I have been blessed to have the love and support of family throughout my entire life, support that has made it possible to start a family, support that made it possible many years ago to make a journey 1,000 miles away from home and join this community. And so I've been blessed, richly blessed. Now, Mom would probably appreciate it if I came home a little bit more often. She doesn't get a chance to see these guys very often. And so she's made a request. She's made a request that I relay something to you all. First of all, she wants a copy of this presentation, so I'm hoping that it continues to work all the way through the end, right? But like she told me at the end of my 5th grade year, get involved, be engaged, try out for something, see if you like it, explore. And yes, as the campus ministry theme talks about this year, abide. Abide here. Make this your place.